Hey, welcome back to the Scaling Smart podcast. This is the podcast for accountants serious about growth, technology, and building an advisory first firm that runs smooth and efficiently. So today I'm excited because we're talking about some of my favorite tools that I like to leverage with clients. And stick around and you're going to get those. And I'm going to give you some insights on how they're working, what's working, how we use it to impress clients. So the first one I want to talk about, it's kind of multi-layered because it's more than just one software, but I'll highlight them here anyway. The key word here is dashboards and advisory reports. So segment 2, we're going to talk all about AI tax research and how we're doing that, because but paired together, these are the two most impactful ways that I can impress my clients and show how it's different working with me and how I'm an advisor compared to whatever their, other accountant that they're shopping around for, or if they're looking online for like what those services are. You're really setting yourself apart and showing them. So the number one thing I would say impresses my VIP clients, my advanced clients, dashboards and advisory reporting. So whether you're using something, now I use these are softwares that do cost a bit, but if you have the clients for it, they're worth it, tenfold. What they charge for these software solutions, you could charge in a month to your client and then have the software for the rest of the year type of deal. So LiveFlow is the one that we're using that so impressive to clients. Spotlight reporting is another one for advisory reporting, actually sending them a PDF report to share with stakeholders, larger organizations that need to like submit bank reports, that kind of thing. But the key here is with both of these tools, LiveFlow and Spotlight reporting, because I've only added those into my tech stack in the past like 12 months. And it's been a game changer for the new clients that I'm getting, for the clients that I started on it. They love it. It's this most scalable aspect of my business. And it's the area that we see, great growth with in the team, in the deliverables, just like my ability as a small firm owner to grow is definitely with tools like this. So, and of course, when we get to the AI tax research tool at the end. But the key with these first two, dashboards and advisory reports, if you've ever met with a client before and you had to go over those black and white QuickBooks reports, that can be so difficult to and shut such a energy suck when you're having a conversation with a client about their numbers and they want to research, like, can you tell me what we spent on advertising this year versus last year, or this quarter versus last quarter, and that kind of thing. And you're just sitting there fidgeting with the dates, with the report settings, with the this, with the that. And now you become kind of like, it's like when you're a rapper in the studio and you got somebody like tweaking all the vocals and the sounds and stuff like that. It's like now I've become an engineer, whereas I want to be, in the front. I want to be here, I want to be driving the conversation. I don't want the client driving me to like, hey, can you extract this for me? So when you use tools like LiveFlow, Spotlight reporting, they have these beautiful visuals that make those black and white numbers turn into something visual, something engaging, something that the clients can see, and they could say, yeah, I get it. I see our trends, bar graphs that show revenue trends this year versus last year, month to month, pie charts showing like top vendor spend or revenue by income stream, real-time scorecards, profit margins, you name it. We could track cash flow, even highlight which business areas need improvement. Like you'll be able to visually see it. So the clients, when they see stuff like this, they feel empowered because the data and the accountant, especially if you're showing it, everybody involved will be able to look at these reports and feel like, hey, let's move on to what we're supposed to do with this information now. Let's turn this into that loan. Let's turn this into let's scale this department, or, trim down this department, that kind of thing. So it's just helping the clients make that decision. And it also, you as an advisor, bringing it to them this way, it makes your firm unforgettable. They say, well, they can almost never go back to the old way of just hiring a bookkeeper and trying to get the reports and no insights with it. So here's the thing. Those insights and those dashboards aren't just for impressing your clients so that when you show them they look pretty and they're, good conversations. They're really to empower you as an advisor and take on that advisory role. See, when we talk to our clients for let's say mid-year or year-end tax strategy sessions, I don't fumble through reports, and I could literally open a dashboard and say, here are the tax compliance KPIs that we need to discuss. Here's where you were last year. Here's where you are now. Here's what this will mean for mid-year, third quarter, fourth quarter planning. So it's very clean. It's very consultative. It keeps you in control. It makes you turn into that advisor, and it's kind of like having another tool in your tool belt. So if you're packaging like how we do ours at One Stop CPA, when we package our monthly bookkeeping or quarterly bookkeeping, these dashboards become kind of like the anchor, these reports that we're delivering, because clients will stick around. They stick around when they feel comfortable with the visual rhythm of things. Like, we see it this way. We know when we check this chart, it tells us how we're doing this year compared to last year. We know how to track these things without having to always ask you, hey, can you run a report for me? Because that could get exhausting. It could be, draining on your team, your time, and it's not really advisory work. You're just kind of like, hey, can you run this report for me? And, I need to see this. Well, how about I turn this into something that's always up to date for you? And that's where the, it opens the door for you to, charge more and, of course, do more advisory style work. So, and if a client ever has to ask you like, hey, why is this, why is it that you're charging me this when I could just go to this other solution? It's like, this data is better than the data that you get from that other solution. So, of course, you're paying me because you want confidence. And businesses that are growing, they don't mind spending. Of course, there are the smaller clients that, they like that stuff, but they're like, hey, I don't want to pay for it. So you also have to kind of like, factor that into your pricing and your bundles. So we have pricing for clients that doesn't include access to either of those software. We have pricing that includes these type of reports, how frequent we do them. And then we also have like the level of detail we could give you with live flow in those dashboards. So that's the number one way we impress our clients, especially the advanced, bigger clients with multi-million-dollar businesses that want to see their financials and they want to be able to track like some specific things, not just for tax purposes, but for growth purposes of their actual business. So those dashboards, very helpful. Those advisory reports are beautiful for when they want to show it to someone. Hey, this is how our business is on track. This is the last few quarters. It just beats what other people are providing out there right now. And it just, levels up your client, levels up their business, and levels you up in their view. So great way to impress clients is by using those like enhanced software tools to, throw on top of their QuickBooks file, if that makes sense. So, hey, just a quick break from this conversation. I hope you're enjoying it. Did you know that most people listening to this podcast haven't actually subscribed yet? And if that's you, no pressure. But if you've been getting value from these episodes, take a second right now, hit that subscribe or follow button. Really helps me bring smart, tactical content to accountants like you. Second, if you're an accountant who's great at what you do, but you still feel like you're undercharging, you're overworked, overwhelmed, or stuck with the wrong clients, then I want to personally invite you to my Scaling Smart 3-day challenge. In just 3 days, I'll show you how to price your services confidently, filter out the wrong fit clients, and build a lean tech stack that helps you run your firm like a business, not a job. Check out the link in the show notes. There's also a VIP upgrade that includes live Q&A access with me during the challenge. I'd love to help you make your firm smarter, more profitable, and more sustainable. All right, let's jump back into the conversation. Now, the next one we're going to spend a little bit more time on is AI tax research. And this is the one that we use BlueJ for. So this completely has changed my firm, and it's my secret weapon for delivering fast and, confident high value tax advisory work. So let me walk you through how we use it. If you've ever used it or you've heard of it, it's an AI tax research tool. There are others out there, but it's the one that I'm using. I love it. So step one, I like to do this is I have like a 5-step process for how I, use BlueJay. So step one, I'll send in a prompt that's to clarify the question. First thing I'm doing is I want to be laser clear with BlueJay on what we're actually asking about. So let's say a client says, should I transfer my LLC? Should I do this with my trust, before the end of the year, etc.? So before BlueJay, I'd kind of jot down the strategy, start digging, start scrubbing the internet, looking at what I had access to, researching IRS publications, you name it, journal articles, or even just, Google and try to see what comes up and extract what I could pull from that. Now I type the question into BlueJay. It's going to frame the research. It's going to tell me what law applies. It's going to define the scenario so that we're on the same page, just to begin with, just to start. So that's step one. Step two is I start to add in the complexities for my client. I start to add the little nuances that are specific to their profile. So here's where you make it feel real for the client. I might say, hey, thanks BlueJay for that. We're on the same page. Here's where it gets tricky for my client. My client has XYZ suspended passive losses from this other property, their real estate professional status, or they're moving from California to Texas, and this is the date that they're moving, and this is when the transaction happens. So I'm very much curating it to the customer. So this is not generic advice. This is something worth paying for. It's when I'm feeding that into BlueJay, it actually adapts what I'm saying, and it's saying, given what you've applied to the topic, here's how to strategize that into your service, into your advisory work. So you're not getting a generic answer. You're getting custom tailored advice for your client. So that was step two. Now, step three, time to tailor and format what's going to go out to the client. So none of that has gone out to the client yet. This is just me, defining what we're talking about, customizing it to the client. And now I want to start tailoring the deliverable in the format I want to. Am I just sending them a reply email? Am I going to give them an official research memo report? Like, what is this going to be? So this is where it becomes something special. So I might ask BlueJay to create a memo in plain English that I can hand over to my client, X amount of words, make it, very simple, make it a 1-minute read, a 2-minute read, or make it very detailed with a lot of references, write this in XYZ and include the supporting guidance, the relevant case law, give me bullet points, give me a table, give me takeaways, give me the next steps, like give me a needs list. Like either way, I'm going to that client with the follow-up with something real. That's not just, whatever. It's just like how I felt. No, this is actually like research went into this. Little do they know, it might have been 15 minutes. So step number 4 now is to polish and validate delivery. So why I like this is a very important step. Step number 4, it kind of seems repetitive from step 3, but here's where it's different. Like I said, this is important. Before anything goes out, I still have to check it. BlueJay's great, and it gives you a chance to see thoughts, reasoning, and its answers behind, but you're the advisor. You can ask it, what can go wrong if this strategy is misapplied? What are some common pitfalls that taxpayers have run into in this situation trying to accomplish XYZ? So you're now adding your expertise, you're showcasing it here. You're adding in disclaimers, and of course you're building trust with the client. So clients will respect you giving them a balanced view. You're not just giving them like, hey, here's the way to accomplish it. I did a research on it and seems simple enough. No, you're telling them the ins and outs of how to execute on this. And now this opens the door for other conversations and more work as well, implementation and execution of planning, that kind of thing. So this helps you offer one without having to dig through, one succinct, research memo without having to dig through all those articles, like I said. And I'll tell you a little bit about my history with this tax research thing and how I used to do it and how it's working now. But So now step number 5. So now you have your nice deliverable. It's clean, whatever format, if it's an email, research memo, however you're dealing with this client, right? Now, step number 5 is something that I like to do within my team, and that's internal notes and follow up. So what I like to do at this point with Blue Jay is I say, write an internal note for the tax team to know for next year when preparing this return, what the strategy was. Let's put a date on it, just so we can say like, hey, we discussed real estate professional status with the client and told them what they need to track. We even shared them a template to track their hours. Make sure that we discuss the holding period for a long-term capital gain projection, something that we told them. The client's thinking about selling their primary residence. We told them about that exclusion that applies, but these are the key dates that we discussed with them. So just making a quick document that we can reference so that when the preparers go in next year, the preparers and the person doing the strategy and the advice and the planning are aligned, because that happens all too often, where the strategist and the person giving the advice is like, the advisor is giving all these like wonderful, like optimistic things. And then when it comes tax time, there's one little thing we didn't include. And that could be the game changer for the client. It could leave like such a bad taste in their mouth. They're like, well, you told me XYZ, you didn't explain to me these other things. And now here we are, I wouldn't have paid for it if I knew, it wasn't going to work out. So that's why I like to tell Blue Jay, hey, create an internal note, create an internal memo, back office support, just so that we're on the same page, and that we communicated, what are some things, common pitfalls of this strategy that the taxpayer should be aware of. And we discussed them. We shared the hours template. We told them that we could help them implement it, but that would be an extra service. So step 5 is just kind of like an internal back office thing, but I like to wrap it up and kind of, keep it all in the same. We've already got our polished deliverable. We've customized it to the client. Let's also just document what we did, like in our workflow for our team. And I'll tell you where a lot of this stems from. So quick story time. Great win in my career. Earlier on in my career, I was lucky enough to work with directly with a partner who had a celebrity client, multi-millions in income, real estate, corporation, LLCs, a trust, a little bit of international stuff in the mix. And they were looking into setting up and operating a nonprofit for their family. And this came to us kind of in the off season, and they said, hey, we want to restructure some things for next year. Obviously, we want to go this route, but we also want to make sure we're doing everything with, efficiency for taxes. So, of course, they came to us. This is not a one-pager. It's a full-blown like strategy map for next year. Knowing what we're expecting to come, a couple million here, this type of revenue, this type of expense, how we're going to structure the payroll for the family, all that kind of stuff, the nonprofit transactions, etc. So I spent a majority of an entire week building a memo from scratch, something that I knew the celebrity client was going to read directly. So I'm cross-checking, statutes, publications, case studies from tax notes, Journal of Accountancy. Like, we built that memo. The partner and I reviewed it together, tweaked it again so that it was like, easy for the client to read, etc. By the time we were done, we were proud of it. And of course, they paid for the time that we spent, but it was exhausting. And I remember thinking, this is only for the celebrity client. Like, if we did this level of strategy and support for all of our business clients, like this would elevate all of, a lot of them would have better clarity, and we wouldn't get some of the questions. We'd probably see some results in our clients if we were doing this level. But it's like, how are we going to do this? We don't have an extra spare week to give everyone, and everybody didn't want to pay for it. So there's got to be a better way to systemize this so that more people could get this. And, that was over a decade ago. So now fast forward, what I did there with Blue Jay, I could get a majority of that research done in I'd say 60 minutes to 2 hours, formatted, cited, accurate. What used to take like a full week could now be a 2-hour session And remember, we're still charging premium fees for this kind of stuff. So the real important takeaway that you could take here is if you could take all that complex research and make it land for the client, like they take it and they understand how it, like, you're not trying to teach your client how to read tax law. You're trying to just translate it for them, how it applies to their situation. Kind of like a doctor. Like, a doctor's not giving you everything they learned in med school and their residency. They're giving you the part that you need to know so that you can take the right action. So it's exactly what we're doing here. Based on current law, this works if you meet these 3 criteria. Here's how we accomplish that. And here could be the results in your case, given what we know, being your compliance team. So this strategy won't work now. This one could work if such and such adjusts, those kind of things. So the clarity is what they're paying for, not just the promises that you're making for them. So, and let's just talk about pricing for a second. However you want to price it, you want to include it, you want to just use it as a tool, you can charge $5,000 minimum to do these tax research memos that could literally, they used to take me 20 hours plus to build. I'm talking about a couple hours. Now, of course, there's other parts of the process with the client, the sale, the getting to know them, getting their information in, maybe some back and forth. But, the same thing that used to take 20 plus hours takes a fraction of that time, same price, if not more, because it's more needed nowadays. There's more complexity. There's always changes happening, and the value of it to the client. So clients don't care about the hours. They care about the answers. Do they care that you used an AI engine, or do they care about the fact that what you gave them is backed by, court cases or private letter rulings? They feel that and they see it as value. So, let's go up to 10K. Why not? Right. So yes, I've used BlueJ to help me even, throughout the process, like start it, say, hey, what's a needs list, a document list I could get from them to enhance this advisory work that we're going to end up delivering them. And it just goes from there. So here's what AI tax tools cannot do. We talked about all the great things that I just, mentioned with the tax research and the strategy. Now let's just keep it real. BlueJ and any AI tax research software is going to be just a tool. It's not a magic pill. It's not the one button. It's not the easy button. So it doesn't know if your client is giving you bad information. It doesn't know if they've missed a key fact. It can't audit proof your file. It can't double check for intent. That's still your job, as the advisor. And that's where your history as an accountant usually enhances this. So if you could cut your research time in half, it can give you confidence. It could structure your arguments and your positions that you're taking, your tax positions, and it can help you document your logic in a very organized and polished way. So the real strategy to impress your clients here is to combine those dashboards and advisory reports that you get from their, accounting records, and apply BlueJ tax research and logic. And let me just close by saying this: the best client experience that we deliver does not start with tax preparation. It's not doing a tax return. It starts with giving them insight into their numbers, clarity on their strategy. And of course, the dashboards can show them the past, the present, forecast for the future. And BlueJ can help us model the current and the future. Together, that's the real advisory. So whether you're pitching like a new CFO level service or just improving your tax planning that you're doing for clients, start with the data that they can see and then back it up with research that they can trust. So that's how we do it. That's how we deliver on a high level. That's how you scale smarter. So of course, if you want to learn more about the tech stack that I use at One Stop CPA, how I price, how we qualify clients, some of our templates, if you want more insights like this, check out our 3-day Scaling Smart Challenge in the show notes. And when we talk about a huge return on investment, that's the best one I could recommend for you. If you're liking this show so far and you like the content we're discussing, check that out. Again, it's in the show notes. What tools are you using? Let me know what you like, what you don't like, sound it off in the comments. And of course, give your feedback. If you're not subscribed, you got to subscribe. Let me know if this is hitting home and we could release more and more of this type of content to you. If there's a topic you want me to cover, drop that in the comments too. And of course, let's keep scaling smarter. See you in the next one.